very warm welcome to all of you to Industry Week 2022. Let's make some noise. One more time, you can do better than that. Let's go. Okay, thank you for you in the front row. Yeah, very warm welcome to everybody. A couple of housekeeping rules just before we officially begin, folks. In the event of a fire, we stay where we are because we're in a bunker. No. In the event of a fire, single file, you'll be following the fire marshal out of the building and you will be queuing up outside in a safe location and the fire marshal. So we're all good. Okay, I just need to get my high-vis blazer out. Outside of that, hashtag IW22. Okay, we're looking for the post with the most. So throughout the whole of Industry Week, keep snapping, keep on tweeting, and the best tweet will be in line for an Amazon voucher. Can I hear it?
Whoa! Am I eligible?
I'm loving the energy. That's amazing. That's some good stuff. Okay, folks, this is a very, very important year for all of us, especially for us on the esports courses, the esports teams, and anything esports at Confetti. Namely because this year we've got a lot of developments taking place. It's the first year of running our BTEC in esports. It's our second year of running the BSc in esports production, but it's also the year where we will have Confetti X live and online. It's going to be taking place in the next month, so very, very, very excited. It's going to elevate Confetti in the UK, but it's also going to elevate the opportunities that you will have. So off the back of that, with opportunities, Industry Week is our flagship event, and it's going to be the greatest opportunity for you to get involved with getting your name out there, getting networked, and listening to those who are actively involved in the esports industry and beyond. Okay, so to introduce our first guest for Industry Week 2022, I would like you all to put your hands together for TSM's Kevin Lee.
Oh, very nice to meet you guys. It's been a pretty big, long time, pretty much never that I've been able to speak to so many people at once, especially not about what I do. But it's great to meet all of you. Gin's been telling me a lot about what you guys have been doing. And welcome to this lecture on what it's to be in esports. So before we start, I will introduce myself later, by the way, because I'm pretty sure no one knows who I am. But I'm just going to do a quick lecture, just tell you guys what's like being in the esports industry, what I do, sort of like what the gig's like, you know, what's actually like being there. And then we're going to give you guys a quick break from listening to my voice. And then I've planned a little game afterwards for you guys to sort of run you through what a somewhat busy week for me would be like, and hopefully give you guys some experience as to what that will be. Another thing is, if you guys have any questions, it's going to be a little bit hard to see your hands, but I will try. Just raise your hands, and if it's and I'll try to answer them. And try to ask questions relevant to the slides, but at the end, I'll do an open Q&A as well. So, first things first, because I'm a narcissist, I am Kevin Lee. So I've been working for TSM for quite a long time now. So I started in 2015. Essentially, I've been friends with Lena, who just recently left us. She was the president of the company at the time, and she hired me on as a writer back in 2015. And essentially, things kind of snowballed from there. When I graduated in 2017, I got brought on full-time, been doing a lot of content stuff, and at the moment, most of what I do is helping out with Logitech partnerships, content, and making just challenge videos and stuff for our teams. And yeah, I guess if anyone's like familiar with the company or recent events, I am basically the last man standing from that era at this point. There is maybe one or two other people left. So I've seen a lot. And so yeah, some cool things I've been able to do. I got to write a very big chunk of our LCS franchising application. That was a lot of fun. I think I stayed up it's probably up till about 4 in the morning, 3 days in a row, waiting for Reginald and Lena to send me more and more stuff and review it. I've interviewed basically all of TSM's really popular players. I've made a lot of their guide content in the last several years. Wrote a lot of the PR announcements. TSM.gg was basically me for 3-4 years. Did Double O's retirement video. Did Double O's re-signing video. Did a lot of challenge videos. Got to have dinner with like a lot of people in LA when I was working there as well. It was pretty fun. And I've written some of the twitlongers that Reginald has posted back in the days when he was beefing with people. That was a good experience. If anyone is happy to talk about that. So now that that's over with, I just kind of want to go over like different like industry positions. So I think all of you are pretty aware, like at least from what I've told, so that just sort of how the basics of the industry are these days, right? So you're going to have your game developers, you're going to have tournament organizers, and you're going to have esports orgs like us. And these are probably going to be the three big hirers, like if you're looking for anything full-time. Tournament organizers I am a lot less familiar with, unfortunately, because I've never actually run one. But Jacob Smith, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name. I believe he's one of your tutors. He's really good. He's really deep into all of that, so he should be able to answer those questions. Game publishers, you know, there's lots of different roles there. You could be game devs, programmers, artists, animators. Like there's all sorts of different things in game devs, and I'd say that's probably actually the most stable part of the esports industry to get into because there's so many different positions. And usually, they're the ones who are actually making consistent money. Whereas organizers, like you'll have ESL, but if you've got like a smaller no-name one, there's probably not very much in there, so they can't afford to hire people full-time. And the one that I'm most familiar with, of course, are esports orgs, so being with TSM. Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of different positions you can get within TSM. And also, I have to say that, give you as a disclaimer, because I've only worked for TSM, I can't really speak for what all the other orgs are. I can say that based on what I've heard from my coworkers who are coming in from other orgs, there's actually quite a lot of key differences and yet similarities between all the different orgs. I would say that 100 Thieves, for example, because they're very new, they're going to have more modern practices. They're going to have a lot of they're pretty much going to be a lot more cutting edge, and like things are going to be very, very startup-y. Whereas older organizations like TSM, for example, we're sort of in this middle ground between being a startup, becoming a corporation. We're starting to bring on a lot of full-time hires, like a lot of full-time. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, because 2018 was 4 years ago. When I moved to LA, there was literally 10 people working in our office, I think. It was like 10 people in one office and 4 people in another. And today, there's probably about 100 employees at the moment, and a lot of us are worldwide, myself included. And there's a lot of, so myself included. And then for really old organizations like TL or Fnatic, they're fully corporate at this point. They have built a lot of different structures. And so you're going to slot in a little bit more. And sort of like the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because working in all these different environments, like you do very different roles. If you're going to work in a startup, or a smaller company, for example, you're going to be doing way more than what you're hired for. So if you're going to work as a producer, for example, you're probably going to end up editing, you're probably going to end up scripting, you're probably going to end up with working with player management, or even like you're going to have to work really closely with players. You're going to be probably be doing some social media stuff as well. You're going to be knowing how to do a lot of the publishes on YouTube, like understanding how the algorithm works. There's a lot of different hats you end up wearing, and I'm pretty sure I've ended up wearing pretty much all of them, except for finance. I think finance and player management, that's a bit out of my scope. At a bigger company like TSM, we've finally started to focus down on a lot of things. So now my job is working with a lot of our freelancers. So I bring a lot of editors together. I work with the crew in LA, the big crew in LA, so I provide them what I want to film, what needs to be done. They'll send me footage, I'll get it edited, so forth. And I think that's usually, even though TSM is like sort of in the middle stage, there's still a lot of different things to do. For example, if you want to get compositing done, if you need to source 3D, if you need to source all these different moving parts that would actually go into a video, usually at a really big studio, like there's specific people doing each role, but as a producer here, I still have to find people to do all of it and put it all together myself. And if you're, well, I can't say if I know for sure about TL or Fnatic, but usually that gets really specific. And if you're a videographer, you're pretty much only going to be doing videography and so forth. So if you like doing a lot of different things, you feel like you're a jack of all trades, maybe smaller is a little bit better. If you have one thing you really want to do very specifically, bigger is the way to go. And notice that I didn't put HR on any of this, by the way. HR is still a fairly new concept in esports. And I don't know if you guys understand like why this is a big deal, but HR handles like training, hiring, like all of these different processes. And in like a major company, like if you go to like Microsoft, you go to like a big four like accounting firm or something, HR is huge. They run basically everything. But in an esports org, if I want to hire somebody, I reach out to them on Twitter. I literally do. I literally say, yo, you want to do a video? And they'll be like, TSM? Yeah. And they'll be like, hell yeah, give me something. And then I have to like just relay details to whoever does our contracts, and that's it. So yeah, fun stuff. So I've pretty much spoken about all of this stuff. Like, for example, like I said, back in the day, smaller org, you do a lot of different things. Reginald Dandin, they did like pretty much finance, player scouting, business management, partnership scouting. Then you get bigger, and then we had Max Olivo doing Legends, and there's only one person on that. And yeah. So, in case you guys are wondering what my day-to-day is like, I wake up, I check my emails, I check my Slack, wait for people to ping me. Sometimes editors will have sent me things overnight. I'll download whatever they send me, put it on Vimeo, review stuff. That's basically like the main like meat of whatever I do. Ooh, this guy's yawning. Told you this was boring 40 minutes. No, it's okay. So essentially, as a producer, you're a manager, right? And managing is it can be very up and down. So you've got a lot of different responsibilities. If someone you're managing messes up, for example, it's really bad, because then you have to start figure out where they messed up, figure out how to fix their problems, and then teach them how to fix their problems very quickly. And if you're managing, say, editors, and then you're managing sound engineers, and you're managing scriptwriters, people who film stuff, there's different amounts of things that you can do to help them, right? For example, if you were a producer, but you didn't really know how to work like Illustrator or something, then it's quite a lot of Googling and self-learning to teach you how to help your artists figure out what to illustrate. So forth. So essentially, as a producer, you can get some very busy weeks where everything's caught on fire. You have a hose, and you can only point it at one fire, and then that fire spreads to other buildings, and you're like, oh dear. But you can also have some pretty slow weeks where everyone underneath you, the minions, all do perfectly great job, and you just sit there, and you're like, you did a great job, yeah! And then everyone's happy, and you publish everything on time, and you're happy. I'd say early on, it was probably more 50-50, where weeks were really, really bad. And now I think it's sort of got into about like 20-30% where they're really bad. And also now that I have minions and I've been working here long enough, it's their problem now. But yeah, so other things that producers should be good at, I guess if you're going to be in esports, you should probably be really aware of how the YouTube algorithm works. Views are really, really important, as I'm pretty sure everyone already knows. And a lot more of it has to do with the marketing of your content, how you do your thumbnails, how you do your titling, as to how good your content actually is. I think you'll find that this is kind of a recurring theme. Like, there's a lot of people with really good content. Go anywhere on YouTube, you can find it. But whether or not you actually see that content is a much different story. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And researching other competitors, like, that's probably the best way to know where you're going. And these are just things that I've done in the past. I don't like measuring my success by view counts, but these have all been very fun videos to work on, and working with all these personalities have been huge. That one actually didn't, the new mistakes one didn't actually have any personalities. I was called up when Valorant was announced in the closed beta, and they're like, can you do a guide? I'm like, I haven't played this game yet. But yeah, but can you do a guide? I'm like, I guess. and then I spent 4 days without sleeping, and that came out, and it's one of our most viewed guides. There isn't even a pro player in it, which is pretty cool. Working with the Apex guys is really fun. Imperial Hal is much nicer in person than you'd think. He's a fantastic person. Like, I really like him. I was doing a guide with him last year, and he was one of the most sweetest, like, patient people whenever it came to, like, just asking, like, quite possibly the most obvious questions. Not sure if I'd want to play, like, on a competitive team with him, but I suppose that's what you need to be at the very top, isn't it? Like, that pressure to, like, always win. Doublelift is a really fun story. Some things I probably can't say on the stage, but we've definitely gotten some footage where it's pre-footage before they're recording and they're just chatting about stuff. And there are some very interesting topics that have happened about traveling and pre-tournament and off like duty stuff that they've done. Oh, I really wish I could say that. But yeah, so that's pretty much, oh, shoot. Oh God, I do not mean to play all of this. Get that. Next slide, please. There we go. And yeah, I think that's generally a lot of stuff. It's not really everything I do. When I was working at TSM earlier, like I had to learn how to sort of update our website and manage some of our code bases as well, because the person who did that didn't want to do it, quite literally. I think a lot of the point right now is I'm just trying to make sure that our transition as we grow into a bigger company is that we start treating people fairer. People start getting more normal work hours. There's less like 18, 20-hour days. Obviously, if you're going to work on a shoot like Legends, that's like an all-day thing. Like I really, like Andrew White, I've spoken to him many times, and he's dedicated so many years of his life to that series. And if that's something what you want to do in particular, that's something you have to be prepared to give up, because you pretty much save the players, you spend all day filming the players, you pay attention to scrims, you figure out what the best story there is to tell about these players, and it's just very involved, and you don't have a life apart from that. And some people, they're really okay with it. I'm not that kind of person, which is probably why you don't know me very well, as opposed to these names that I've been mentioning. So, if you're gonna ask me what it's actually like being in esports, honestly, I kind of would rather if people had like more specific questions about it, if they had any at all. I would say that, personally speaking, it's been a very up and down, like very exciting, very volatile place to be. Like like I've said earlier, some days it's perfectly smoothing, and other days everything is going wrong, and you're just there and you're just doing your best to duct tape everything. Yeah, I'm not sure if I see any questions, so I'm just going to keep moving on. So, oh, yeah?
So, as someone new to the industry,
Mm-hmm.
How would you recommend balancing kind of proper work commitments with learning new skills?
Proper work commitments with learning new skills. It's a really good question, actually, because that's something I've personally struggled a lot with as well. Essentially, what you have to do is you have to find those pockets of free time when your days are slow. Because when your days are slow, it's pretty easy to just sit back and relax. And those are definitely the best days where you can start picking up new skills, start going into Premiere and trying out new things. This is when you can start like concepting more stuff. These are all responsibilities that I have personally as well. Like if I'm in a down period, I usually spend a lot of time on YouTube researching what 100 Thieves are doing, researching what Cloud9's doing, all these other different orgs, because that's really important, right? If your competitors are doing something and it's succeeding and you just completely ignore that, then you're missing out on what's potentially a really big video. And so that's really my best suggestion. It takes a lot of self-discipline. That's definitely the biggest deal. If you're not disciplined and you're just happy to sit back, which, I mean, everyone sometimes does, but then you're not gonna have the best use of your time. But if you're focused, put everything in, you get a lot further than most people in the industry. That's what I'll say. Yeah. Anyone else? All right, we'll start with you.
So how much, obviously you can only speak from a TSM perspective, but how much
Yeah, TSM's actually been really good with that, especially more recently now that we've got a lot more structure. So in the past, it used to be basically Andrew and Max and some of our other creatives. I think Paul Rice, Shane McElroy. I think I might be forgetting some people as well, but usually all these people, they'd be the ones sort of like coming up with the ideas and then they just execute it. These days we have these huge pitch meetings and everyone gets together in a call. We start giving out ideas for certain shoots because now we film all of our content in like 1 or 2 week sprints. And so we'll send a crew to Vegas, we'll send a crew to Austin, and they'll just go there and spend the entire weeks filming. So in order to prepare for that, we usually come up with these really massive pitch documents. I wonder if I can show you one of these. Maybe I can, not sure. Might be NDA'd. I think it's NDA'd. Sorry about that. But yeah, we'll come up with these big pitch documents. We'll send it up to, it used to be Lena who was like giving the green light on it. Now we're looking for somebody else to give the green light, but it's usually a mixture of our COO and Dunk, who's our social media guy, and yeah. Someone else here had a question, yes?
It's a bit more of an abstract question, I suppose, but since you've been working in the industry, specifically TSM, for a long time.
Yeah.
Since you've been working at TSM,
I can hear you, it's fine.
yeah, it's all right. You've been working in TSM and the industry a long time. Would you be able to say that there's still a lot of, as things are becoming more corporate, I suppose you can, again, only speak from TSM's perspective, but is there still a lot of passion left in the industry, or is it more business driven now and just like, because obviously back in the day it was all startups and people were like, oh, this is good, this maybe
yeah.
You see what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I would say there's still a lot of passion in it. Some of my newest hires, some of the producers I've brought on in October, November, they are huge, like they are mega passionate about the job, and that's really big. I would say in higher level executives, that's a little bit trickier because when you're trying to hire for such a fresh industry, right, it's really hard to find people with the level of experience you need for like a senior merchandising VP or something, or like a senior VP of marketing. Because these are people who you need 10, 15 years of experience to actually fulfill the job correctly. But there aren't people that old or with that much experience in actually doing these concrete things who've also like been on Twitch for the last 10 years as well. So it's a really, really tough hire. So you'll see at the top, there's a lot of like, there's a lot of people who they're learning as they go. They have to pick up the industry, they have to get into the whole culture. And it's actually quite funny because some of them, just trying to see them do Twitch memes and stuff is, I'll sit there and I'll be like, didn't think my dad was in this company. But otherwise, no, I'm not really adding anyone at TSM at all. I'm just saying from what I've seen on Twitter and with other VPs, like some people really, they have to really learn the culture. But at the lower levels, where it's a lot easier to find people who've been there and also can do the jobs, the competition at the bottom is insane. There's just so many people. And it's less about, it's about passing a certain threshold of skill, and then big part is making yourself marketed, making yourself known. That is the biggest thing. I don't think I've ever hired a person like I've hired one person fresh out of the blue, and that's because like, it was for a no-name gig that nobody knew anything about. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
One question on the back.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take this last question and then I'll move on with the rest of it because probably should get through this.
Do you have any initial regrets from when first entering the esports landscape?
I really like that you asked that question because that leads straight into my next point up there. So. Right now, I will say that salaries in esports are a very interesting topic. So, as I'm sure some of you are well aware, some pro players have been paid in mouse pads. Other people, a lot of pro players, they don't get paid. And early on in the industry, this was a really, really, really huge problem. And I think it's a very good thing about TSM that we've been very good at paying people. Like everyone has always gotten what was agreed upon, and the salaries are generally pretty fair. I would say that. I think it's when you start looking at the industry in comparison to other industries, then you start sort of thinking a little bit more. So as I've got over here, the average producer salary in LA is $90,000 a year. So that's approximately 67,000 pounds. And my current salary is 75,000 USD, which is 15 less, which I think it's still pretty high, right? And you got to start thinking about like, okay, if you're going to work in esports, are you here? So also the hours I think in esports is way worse than what you would get in, say, working at an established studio for Hollywood, because they'll have their crunch times, but usually like there'll be like proper downtimes as well. And I think that's one of the things that when I was first hired full time, I kind of wish I considered a little bit more, because my first starting salary was $45,000 a year, and that had me waking up at 5 in the morning, like multiple days a week, and I'd be working until like 9, and I'd be getting paid this quite measly thing for doing the job of about 7 different people that year. And I think that's sort of one of the things that I thought, one of the things that I really want people to know about, because a lot of these companies, when they start small, what they're going to do is they're going to try to pay you what you ask for. And not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but when you've got a lot of young students, a lot of young people who don't know what they're worth, they don't know what their skills are, they're going to undersell themselves no matter what. And the nature of the industry is that they'll let you undersell yourself. So that's something that you should be very aware of and be very careful of, and you should definitely be, it'll take a bit of experience to learn how to negotiate and navigate, for sure. And yeah, sorry, in the front.
So continuing on from that, do you have any tips on how to value yourself?
Talk to other people. Talk to people who you know, who are doing the same thing you are. Find people who are experienced in the industry, people who know what they're doing, because while some people will tell you not to share your salary, which, yeah, I guess you probably shouldn't like go out on a stage and put out how much you earn. You should definitely have like pretty candid conversations about it, because that's the only way you're ever going to know what you're worth. And if you look at, for example, Riot and how the LEC staff are always being like, they're always negotiating and they're always like, hey, we deserve more, this is what we're doing, we've done all of these things. That's the only way you can ever make what's worth for yourself. And it's a fight. It's a really hard fight, I will say that. But as I was saying, sorry, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So I kind of wanted to actually start with like actual concrete things about the industry that I've personally kind of run into. So I'm going to start with the bad stuff, because I think this is sort of the most, these are the challenges you'll probably face quite a lot. Especially once you get to somewhere middle management higher. When you know how much you're worth, you'll realize that being in esports, you're always going to be paid less. That's because that's just how the industry is at the moment. And I think what's made up for that is just all the passion and the supply, because there's so many of you. There's, 70, 80 people in this room. I don't know if you're all editors or whatever, or what you guys are all looking to do. But if that's 70, 80 editors here in this room, I work with like 6 freelance and then 5 full-time. So that's about 70 of you who's not going to get a job, at TSM at least, right? So that's why it's very competitive, and that's why the industry can afford to underpay people. Second thing that I think is more of an interesting and difficult point, more contentious point, is that top-tier talent in esports is very difficult to find, because you will have to find people who are willing to take these losses for their passion. And the example I have there is like, if you want to work on a Marvel film, you're going to get paid a lot of money. Like, there's just so much money going into that, you're never going to get underpaid. And so if you're an editor and you want to do that, and you know you've got the skills to do that, my question is, why would you go work in esports where you're making, like, for a lot of esports companies, very soulless content, where you could be working on this massive blockbuster film, right? And it's sort of the same thing across all positions. How are you going to find, say, a top-tier programmer to work on the Blitz app, for example, when You pay less than Google. You give less amenities than Google. You don't give them stock prices. It's very difficult. And that's not to say you can't find good people in the industry, because I work with a lot of great, like, massively skilled people. But if you're looking for that one guy, like, you want on your group project every single time, because they'll do like 80% of the work, not complain, do it perfectly, and you know you'll get an A, like, that's hard. It's very hard to find. And the last thing, I've already said it multiple times, the chaos. The chaos of esports. I think all your tutors, everyone who's been in the industry, they'll all have their horror stories. But one of the things I will say about the horror stories is that it's something that I love looking back, because they really help you grow. They really help you improve yourself, improve your skills. And it's almost always a funny story at the end of the day. Unless, no, it's almost always a funny story, yeah. And it's pretty much all of it. The good stuff, though, the passion in the esports space is just fantastic. You can ask people to do things, and when you find the right person, they'll go so far beyond anything you ask because they care. And that's something money can't buy. That's something that is quite possibly one of the most important things, not just in esports, but in life. If you have the passion to do something, put 130, 40, 50% of yourself into it, protect it, because that's the one thing that's going to get you anywhere. And like everyone, so many people I work with, those are these people. As I said, it's really cool working with a lot of pros. It's really rewarding when you put a video up on YouTube, you've had like what, a $400, $500 budget, and it's getting like 1.5 million views. Like that feels good. Working with a lot of pros, getting to know like personalities, people you've only seen online but like you've been following for years, that's a really fun thing too. When I got to meet Myth, for example, like it was pretty much a bunch of us, and we were just playing like board games and went out for dinner, and it's just really fun like seeing how down to earth some of these people can be. And I think it's really easy to build like really close connections, especially since even though it is getting a little bit more corporate, you're still going to be able to make really good friendships with a lot of different people. And that's something I think you'll find very rewarding no matter who you are. And yeah, somebody was asking about the freedom. I personally, I don't know if it's, sorry. I don't know if it's because I've been here for a long time and that's why I can basically do most things, like come out on a Monday without letting anyone know that I'm ditching work to give a lecture to students. Okay, I'm not ditching work, but there's a lot of freedom in what you can do. Even though people will say it's unprofessional the industry is a bit unprofessional because people can sort of interact and do stuff, that lack of instilled professionalism is what makes the industry, what gives you your freedom to do what you want. As long as you're being polite, as long as you're being courteous, like, and as long as you're not really being a total knob, like, the freedom, you can really decide what you want to do. If you have a personal project that you think you really believe in and you can sell it to the person the producer above you, that's huge. Because if you came to me and you said, hey, I've got this video I really want to do like TSM Apex team, I'll be like, okay, tell me about it. You tell me about it. It's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get in the next pitch. We'll put you on the project. You can participate in the filming online, or we'll fly out to like Austin. And yeah, like that is literally how that process can go. And I don't think you'll probably run into that if you're working at most big companies. So other things about environment is that, especially since esports is so online, there's a lot of different, you can definitely find a good amount of remote jobs in esports as well. So I mean, on-site pros and cons, like you're in a nice office, you can really network with people. I would say that being on site to network is pretty much the only reason you'll ever need to go to the office. Because networking is important, building relationships is important. And if there's one thing I want everyone to take from me here today, having a good relationship with anyone you work with in esports is the most important thing you'll ever do. And the other yeah, okay, on site, Now we'll go to remote, and remote is what I do pretty much. So I've been working remotely since 2019, pre-pandemic. So I've been working from home for years now. I haven't been into an office for years as well. So there's a lot of interesting things about being remote. So being remote, you can do whatever you want. As long as you get your work done, you get your work done. And because so much of your work, you're messaging people anyways, as a producer, you can really get away with it. The only difficult thing about being remote and being permanently remote is that you never know when to turn off your phone. So I've gotten messages at 2 in the morning, and I've been like, I'll respond to this. This is a good idea. I'll let people in LA know I'll respond at 2 in the morning. Don't do that. And getting in touch with people can also sometimes be a bit difficult. If you're in an office, walk up to them, tap them on the shoulder, say hi. They'll respond 9 times out of 10. Actually, I think it's probably 10 times out of 10. It'd be kind of rude if they didn't. And whereas online, people they can blank you a bit. I've had some editors where I've been like, I really need an update. Where's my update? Can I please get an update? It's been like a day. It's been like 6 hours since you've responded to me. Please, I need this update. And I'll be like, it's only 6 hours? God damn. And yeah, I guess for TSM as well. And actually a lot of big esports firms, they're all in LA. And if you like sun, and if you like having to drive everywhere, and America, LA's not a bad place to be. I don't like LA, so I like remote. And so yeah, if you want to join the esports industry, the best way to join is to know somebody. I will very proudly tell you guys that I was hired because I was a friend of Lena. Like, I will not deny anything. And there's a lot of different ways to get to know people these days, especially. You don't have to randomly play World of Warcraft with somebody and then one day you find out they're dating the CEO of TSM. You can join Discords. Lots of Discords and Twitter groups out there these days. A lot of people who are trying to make it and they're posting stuff on their Twitters and social media, getting in touch with them. So one of my junior producers, reason I hired him as an editor was because when he was younger, he would just message random editors he thought was good, ask them for like advice on the videos he's done, and then they give it to him, and then eventually they just become friends. And these days, because Discord's so big, there's so many big Discord groups, people who are like giving small gigs everywhere, you can really make some connections off this. Jacob himself, one of the tutors, he's like the most amazing like networker I've ever seen. Like he just knows everybody in the scene at this point, and I don't know how he does it. And Dunk, who's our social, I don't know what his title is these days. It's changed like 3 times in the last like year and a half because he's just gotten promoted so fast because this guy is so passionate and he's so good at what he does. But like he got hired because he started this one Twitter account that covered all of TSM's games like really professionally. And like this was something we just never been able to do for some reason. And he just got hired, started running our social media, and he's like one of our like top level employees now because he's so good at it. So there's a lot of ways you can get noticed. And you can also apply like cold via job sites. I wouldn't really suggest it unless you have somebody telling you to do it and saying like, yeah, they'll refer you. Just because, I mean, you can apply, you might get lucky. But a lot of the time when I've put out an open call for people to apply for a job, I've ignored 95% of the resumes. And the 5% of the resumes that I've called, I'd hire like 1. So it's a lot harder to get noticed that way.
We've got one question up there.
Oh, yeah, sorry. At the back?
Do you think the marketability of the whole industry is going to keep on getting bigger and bigger, especially with like, for example, obviously TSM winning Invite recently?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just think that even smaller games like R6, for example, are just going to keep on bringing more and more attention to the bigger roles, even if it is kind of a small game?
I need to think about how much I can talk about TSM's like outreach and marketing strategy is here. So smaller games like R6 are, okay. It's important to be in a lot of the major titles, and even though R6 is smaller, it's still considered a pretty big esports title. Just because when you think about SI, right? These still get like significant viewership, even if it's in like the 50,000s range and stuff for like most of the tournament. These are numbers that are important, and when you join these, when you get into these games as an org, you usually get a whole group of gamers that you don't normally reach out to. Every like title is so different from each other, right? Like whoever plays League isn't necessarily going to know CS:GO. Whoever plays Dota probably doesn't play anything else because they play Dota. Yeah, shots fired, yeah. So usually when you enter all these different games, you tap really big parts of the market. But you have to be careful because you can't just join anything else. You can't just pick up every game. Like Halo, even though like it's been such a well-known title, it's really small. Like what you're going to get for your investment going to Halo isn't going to be the same as what you get your investment for going into like Valorant. Valorant is like Valorant right now is like one of those titles you're going to get like massive return on your money because of how popular it is. So yeah. A lot of it is doing the market research and knowing where your mileage is. And if we're talking about R6 in particular, yes. If you're talking about like Clash of Clans, I'd say maybe you might want to look into it a little bit more and see what the pro scene is like there, if you're in esports especially. If you're doing like just content though, you can probably make pretty good money. Like Minecraft doesn't have a very good esports scene, for example, but all the numbers, all the content creators, they just get huge views, and that's massive, right? Does that answer your question? Yeah. So, as I was saying, I was a big nepotism hire, but I wanted to sort of get to this point here about short-term versus long-term hires. Even though I was a nepotism hire, all nepotism hires are probably a short-term thing. If you get brought on and you're just value negative to your company, and all you do is bother people and not get anything done, you're going to lose your job very, very quickly. I've literally hired and fired editors within 3 days of each other before. So that's what you have to be very careful of. So as I was saying, relationships are really important. Your reputation is really important. If you are planning to go into the industry as an editor, if you're planning to go into the industry as a creative, as almost pretty much any gig, you're going to go into it as a freelancer, because very few companies and organizations right now are going to outright hire somebody full-time for long-term, because the industry changes so much, there's no guarantee their investment's going to be good. So as a freelancer, it's really important that you recognize that all your gigs are technically short-term until otherwise stated. There are two things I really look for in most of the freelancers I've hired. Reliability is one of them. If I hire you and I can't get a response from you if I only get one response, like it's a one-sentence response every 2 days, I'm probably never going to work with you again, even if you produce something that's amazing. I might like hire you like for a long-term like 1-month project because I know you can do it. But for the most part, like you have to be really, really good if you're not like good at communicating and stuff like that. And secondly, you have to make sure you actually know what you're signing up for. I've had an editor who I assigned a video once, and he literally put the entire video in a series of 300 nested clips in Premiere. And then he went to me asking me why like his Premiere kept crashing every time he rendered it. So yeah, mix and match. And like I said, top-tier talent, sometimes not the easiest to find. But the flip side of this is that if you get hired for one gig and you're just fantastic, I'll keep hiring you. Like if you're nice to me and you deliver on time and you communicate to me whatever problems you have and you like ask questions, that is what every hiring manager wants, because that's somebody who you know is actually like in the job and like actually trying to give it more than just like the bare minimum. And that's how you really get into the industry. A lot of our full-timers began as freelancers. All all of our full-time editors now, I think, were actually freelancers. A lot of our creatives, they got brought on as editors, and then they've moved up as well. I was technically started as like a 1-year contract that got extended. And at this point, I'm not sure how long that's going to be extended for. I still don't know, but I'm assuming it's pretty long-term these days. Hit me up in 6 months where I get fired or something for this, but no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to get fired. But yeah, so reliability, communication, these are the keys to sort of building a good relationship with whoever hires you. And yeah, don't burn bridges. If you're having a really hard week, don't ghost somebody. Tell them you're having a hard week, explain it. And if they're not empathetic, at least, or like if they're not understanding, if, for example, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, if it's a rush project, for example, and you told me, hey, like, my grandma got COVID or something, I'll be like, okay, are you able to finish this? If you can't, can you just send me the project? I'll still have you paid, and then I'll find somebody else who can do it. And that's usually what you want to look for. You don't want to look for somebody who just yells at you and rages at you. It's like, oh, you told me you'd get it done by then. And I was like, yeah, but, you know. So if someone's doing that to you, then yeah, maybe think about burning the bridge. But for the most part, like, make sure that they don't have a reason to burn bridges with you. You're the one who gets to choose. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for the lecture right now. I'll probably open up like a Q&A for about 10 minutes or so. If anyone has any questions, yeah?
So as a creative person, yes, so as a creative person, do you have any tips on, you know, those moments when you're sort of stuck in the mud, don't have ideas, been given a really loose brief?
Being given a really loose brief. I think the way my best creatives have dealt with it is that they just asked me questions, and they kept asking and asking. A lot of the time, I also think a lot of it depends on the project, I guess. A lot of the time, like, the producer should have good ideas on how to guide you along and what they really want. I don't think I've ever had a creative where I said, you have freedom to do this, 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 and then they've produced something that's utter crap. Usually, it's just you ask, you clarify, and make sure what the things, you clarify what the key issues are that will probably bite you if you do it wrong. So stuff like music is something you should really clarify about. If you're doing like a montage and you got the wrong song, that's really bad. Tone and storyboarding is really important. We just had our R6 montage come out, and we were having a bit of trouble with that because the producer on the task didn't really think about how much storyboarding had to go into it. And then when the product came out, it was sort of like a mishmash, like kind of wishy-washy thing. So we had to sort of like delay it and fix it. So things like that, those are the really important things to ask. And then if you still don't really have any ideas from that point on, other creatives are probably the best way to help you. I would say a good producer should be able to help you on most regards, though. If the producer doesn't, he's either not doing his job or he's having a really hard week or something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can. Yeah, so does anyone else have any questions? Yeah. Sorry, I really wish I could see your hands from up here.
Right. I was just wondering, in relation to, like, obviously there's a lot of esports, especially TSM has a lot of esports teams. And I'm sure you guys do videos on a lot of those teams. And do you specifically try to keep up with those esports, or like as kind of part of your job, or is it more you just kind of know because you watch it out of fun or whatever? Because they're like.
No, this is a really, really good question, actually. So in the past, it was because I watched everything out of fun. Like, I probably, at some point in TSM, I was like the only person who sort of watched R6, the only person who watched Apex, the only person who watched like a lot of like the side titles, because it was something that I figured, okay, we're in these things, like I should know stuff about this. And like I generally end up enjoying it because I'm a gamer. Like, these are all pretty hype titles to watch. These days, we're actually hiring for specific like games now, in the sense that we're assigning people who are specializing in Apex content, so they know the space really well. Because somebody who's jack of all trading it, they won't know the nitty-gritty details, and like, they won't have been on Twitch like 8 hours a day, like the stream open, sort of like get all the in-jokes, all the culture, like what people are looking for. And that's super important these days, especially since everything's been getting so competitive. Yeah, I think when you're at a smaller company, you'll have to know more. When you're at a bigger company, you might not have to know as much.
So you would consider that as like part of the job to know like the in culture of specific esports?
Part of the job, that's an interesting way to phrase it. I would say, yeah, it's a part of the job, but it's not something you necessarily need to know going in. It's something that you should be able to pick up on your own when you get in. In terms of whether or not you should do it as a job because you have to, I think that's a different, that's sort of the problem that I'm kind of like thinking of the phrasing of this. Because even though it's a part of the job, if you're doing it because it's a part of the job and you don't actually care about it, that's a problem. You probably shouldn't be doing that, if that makes sense to you. Because you need the passion there. If you don't have the passion, it's going to be very difficult for you to do it right.
I just wanted to ask, do you get any support or insight from game companies?
No. No. Support or insight from game companies? As far as I'm concerned, the only like things I hear about game companies are like, are we allowed to attend SI as like to film it? Yes, because COVID is kind of over. No, COVID's still bad. Or like, I think League's a lot more complicated because that ecosystem's been built up so much. I think there's a lot more interactive with League and talking to Riot that TSM has. I'm not involved in it. Usually content-wise, I think with League, it's filming in the LCS studio that was the biggest thing that people have to interact with Riot for. But for the most part, no, I don't think we really interact too much with the game devs. I wish I could message game dev and be like, yo, this character's busted, can you nerf it? But yeah, sorry. Hope that answers. Okay, in front.
Just before we go to answering or asking more questions, can you stop clicking your pens, please, everybody? Thank you very much.
What do you think you or TSM as a whole has been the best, worst, and your favourite projects to work on?
Oh, my projects to work on?
Projects to work on, best, worst, and personal favourite.
Oh dear. Personal favorite to work on are usually the ones where I was working with, where Doublelift was in the footage, or Doublelift and Bjergsen were in the footage, or stuff where I get to directly interact with like the big name pros. Bjergsen's literally the nicest guy ever. Like he'll never, like, I tried to bait him once into saying, like, into trash talking Jensen, and like he just said, no, Jensen's pretty good. I was like, ah. Doublelift is really good in camera. He knows exactly what to say. Like, you just give him a prompt and he'll just say it, and he's really good at that. And it makes your job as an editor, as a producer, as a creative so much easier because he gives you so much to work with. Things that I've hated working on are partnerships projects. Stuff where it's internal sales and like it's things people are taking into backroom meetings with like sponsors. These are the most soulless, like, awful things to work on because what they ask for is never normally what you have to deliver. You always have to deliver something different from what they ask for because most of the people, they don't know what they want. And secondly, you're not even like making something that fun. Like there's not very much creativity going into it. You're just like splicing together old projects and stuff and then like having really, you guys know that graphic designer thing where every graphic designer gets asked to make the text pop a little bit more? Yeah, that's what working on the marketing videos is like. So those I don't really enjoy too much. I think for an in-between, I had to work directly with Andy on some coaching videos for Blitz. And those were quite interesting in the sense that the project and the content that was being put into it was really, was genuinely interesting to work on. The difficult part is that because Andy is a very tough customer to please, it's why he's at the top. If he doesn't settle for anything less than perfect, right? And if you can't produce perfect, then that's really difficult. So that's one of those sort of in-betweens. Yeah. Did you want any specific examples of videos, or? If there's anything specifically you think you like the most or has gone wrong, but it's still out there. I think when I did Double O's retirement video, that was a really, really fun piece to do, because I've been following him since 2010, and he retired in 2019, 2020-ish. And that was one of those things where it was literally the Friday before Thanksgiving weekend. I would have had 4 days off, and someone told me, Double O's retiring, we need a video. Also, he's kind of he doesn't want to be interviewed for this. Can you just make do? And I was like, oh my God, okay. And then, so I got into I got an editor immediately, and we spent literally the whole weekend working together on that, because we had to announce on the Monday after as well. And that one, I had to dig up all these different things from all of the history. That was when really knowing the game came handy, right? Because these days you have people who've only played League for 3-4 years. They don't know Double F was a Blitzcrank one trick back in 2010. These are things where I got to really dig up and really tell his story. And I think when it came out, it was one of those things where it's I swear to God, if this goes out and no one cries, I'll be really pissed off. And then everyone started commenting that they were crying. And Lena told me that Double F kind of teared up on that. So I was really proud. Yeah, so. Okay, let me see, because we do have, because the game's going to take a little while, and the more time we have for that, the easier it will be for you guys.
One more question.
Okay, sure.
So firstly, it's kind of a meme thing, but when does Bolo play next? But what is there any teams specifically that you are really close to within TSM, and how does that reflect into your collaborations in terms of the work and videos that you do with them? Yeah,
that's a really fantastic question. The closer you are to working it with a team, better you know the players, the better the content they'll give you as. Did that make sense? Yeah, I think that made basic grammatical sense. For example, I was really close to the PUBG team before we dropped them, because I had to deal with all their content. And they were really fun guys, and I usually just ran quizzes with them because they were easier content to do. And so those were good. That was really fun, and the way the quizzes got as time went on, the better they were, because they started building the rapport, they started being cheekier with what they tried to pull. And that was usually a lot of fun. It's the same thing with R6, where we've got a pretty solid crew going there all the time. So the R6 players know that crew really well. And I'm pretty sure we're trying to do the same thing with our Apex crew as well. And obviously, Legends, we had Andrew White literally living with the players for ages. So that's how they were able to get content like that. Okay. So I think right now, I'm going to sort of call a short recess, because you guys have been listening to me talk for an hour. If you guys have any questions, I'm just going to sit down here while you guys take a break. And you guys can come up, I guess. Is that fine?
Should we use this opportunity to pass out the
yes,
sheets?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Last thing, sorry, I should probably. For this game, I need people to get into groups of 4. Okay? There are 3 piles here.
Listen carefully, folks.
In the group of 4, pick 2 people who are going to be creative/editors. Pick somebody who's going to be a producer. And pick somebody who's going to be sort of the partnership, sort of requests team. So I'll let you guys divide and figure it out. Once you've sorted that out, come up here and pick up the corresponding sheet. Okay?
We'll use the 10 minutes for them to come up.
Okay.
So folks, make sure you've got your group set up, and we need someone from each team of 4, to come and collect those sheets from the front.
Sorry, can I say one more thing? Could you tell them not... Could you guys try to avoid looking at the sheets that aren't for your role, by the way? Yeah. All right, you here?
Yeah, I'm going to take 4.
Yeah.
Also, if I want to reach out to you for ideas, can I reach out to you?
Yeah, just Twitter me. Just DM me on Twitter. Hi. For a group? Here you go. Sorry, take these two for now. I'm just trying to separate these. Here you go. Shouldn't really be asking for people's names.
My name is Becca.
Becca.
Do I need...
No, just one of each. You'll share with the editor.
Oh, I've got 2 creatives, that's why.
Oh, you've got 2 creatives.
Yes.
Oh, great. Nice.
Thank you.
Oh, I see. Wait, I really hope that wasn't a problem. Okay, sorry. Hiya. How's it going? Are you guys one group or are you guys 4 groups?
We're all different.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to do this a little bit more efficiently then. Honestly, it might work better if I get people to take them themselves. Here you go. There's one. Sorry. Oh, shit. These weren't separated correctly. Okay. Producers, creatives, need partnerships. Here you go. Sorry. Creatives, partnerships. Here you go.
Thank you.
Here you go. Anyone else? People should check that they've got the right ones.
Thank you.
Shit, people are having trouble reading these, aren't they? There you go. Maybe we can get like the house lights on when it starts or something. Sorry? Yeah. There you go. How's it going? That's better. But I'm trying to spend my free time to clear horizons less, and then I need to talk Yeah. I used to be really into CSGO, and then I got old, and then I just didn't have time to play.
Get everybody sitting back down. Back to your seats.
Oh, fuck. I'll have to follow. Sure, yeah, I'll get that settled. Okay. All right. Is everyone? Yeah. Does everyone? Oh. Done. Okay. Is everyone ready? Everything good?
Yep.
Okay, does everyone have the correct roles, by the way? Because I think I might have handed out like wrong sheets. Everyone should have producer, partnership, player management, or whatever, and producer, and everyone should have one of all.
We've got 2 producers.
Okay, which one are you missing?
The partnership one.
Partnerships, got it. Thank you. Okay, let me check the time because this is going to really impact, so I'm going to try to go through this quick. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read through this. These are going to be the 3 roles. So whoever is going to be an editor, like thumbnail artist, whatever, you're going to actually be using your notepads and stuff to draw and produce stuff. Producers, you're going to be talking. You're going to be in between the editors and the partnerships and player management people, whatever. And partnership, player management, social media, you're going to be making the requests to the producers and your tasks and stuff, okay? So how this is going to go is every day in the game, you guys are going to be producing stuff, like working on tasks. The tasks should have due dates, and when the tasks are supposed to be submitted, you'll just you'll bring them up and put them here, or hand it to me directly, okay? Prefer for people to not look at each other's sheets, as I've said, because the partnerships sheet has the most info on everything, and that person has to really, really like give them info. Looking at the time, it's looking like you guys are going to have about 8 to 10 minutes per day. All right, so don't worry about making a work of art. I originally intended it for it to be 12 minutes, but because you guys are asking great questions, it's now 8. And yeah, so every time there's a new, every day there's going to be new stuff happening, and I might try to throw some curveballs / wrenches at you guys in the middle of the tasks, okay? So I'm going to get the timer ready now. And I'm going to put 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Does anyone have any questions? And can we also get the house lights on for... Great. Okay, is everyone ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, day 1 starting. Go. I know. This is all I've wanted to do. Yeah, it's going well?
Yeah, definitely.
Hoping I haven't said anything that I wasn't allowed to say yet.
Absolutely perfect. I was really looking forward to the juicy gossip.
Yeah, I was expecting people to ask me questions about that because I had a really good response, like prepared for everything, and no one asked, so I'm good. probably should have happened on day one. So editors, one person should be working on one task. These should have been assigned. Producers should have probably checked what they were doing on task 1. And the partnership should have set up the spec for task 2 for the producers to like sort of delegate. Okay? I'm going to reset the thing. I'm going to start. Does anyone have any questions so far? Is this going fine? All right, cool. You guys are doing fine. I'm starting the timer for day 2. Go. everyone. Okay, let's see. So, end of day 2. Task 3 should have been assigned. Task 1 should be ready for submission on the next day. Hopefully task 2 is going well, hopefully task 3 is going well, and hopefully you guys are doing well. And I don't think I changed the slide for the editors, I'm sorry, but I'm sure you're all doing things correctly at this point. So I'm gonna start for day 3. I think I'm gonna reduce your time a little bit here. It's gonna be 7 minutes and 30 seconds for day 3 now. Okay? Everyone ready? 3, 2, 1, go. up here and put here. Looking pretty good, yeah. Player has joined. That's a nice one. Cool.
So we made a player card with an animated background and a video of them doing a few.
You guys are doing everything for this. I just asked for a thumbnail. Okay, cool.
Honestly, our team was in shambles.
Shambles is fine.
It's just there's day 1 and day 2 on there, and then day 3.
Just let me see the day 1 stuff for now.
That's the character design for it.
Okay.
It's like a shadow, positioning, speed, and then that's the movement information. So I've seen that.
Okay, sure. It's just past one you need to show me right now, so it's fine. Okay. Can you just put that there, and then I'll take a look at the ones that I can't get to at the moment? You don't have to put the whole thing, just the sheet of paper. Okay. Oh, I see. If that's okay. Bring that back to me later. Yeah. And just put it there. Okay. Sorry. I didn't realize how much time it would take me to look at these. So what we'll do is, if you're going to submit a deliverable, just put it in the front. I'll take a look through it, and then at the end of the whole thing, I'll just give you guys feedback and comments on the ones I really like. Okay. End of day 3, you'll get big news for the task 3, and things probably with the editors might get a little bit messy at this point. Same thing for everyone else, is general. We're on to day 4. I'm going to give you guys another 7 minutes and 30 seconds. For day 4, though, there's going to be a little bit of a trick here. All your editors have COVID, so they're not allowed to work today.
It's a day off!
Also give them 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Sure. partnerships team people have decided that it's not worth working the full day today because a third of your workforce is missing. So day 4 is done. And did everyone manage to submit task 2 to me? Or are there people who still haven't submitted task 2? Wait. So, okay, sure, I'll take these. But there was a thing on the partnerships people thing where they're allowed to ask for extensions. So if you needed an extra day to work on it, that's fine. But everything else, I think we're on to day 5, and you guys should really just be finishing everything. And I'm going to give you guys 6 minutes for this because we're running a bit out of time. like the storyboards were really cool. Like a lot of the firing messages were very professional, very curt. You're all going to get flamed for them because you're firing somebody, but it's still curt, and that's fine. And the thumbnails all seemed pretty good. I like some of the more innovative ideas, like the one with the Apex player, like the legend card. That was really cool. So it's a really good job. I wanted to ask and get a show of hands here. How many of you guys missed that the Logitech, well, sorry, I shouldn't be saying Logitech, but like the mouse ad got switched to a controller ad midway? Because I remember, so a lot of people submitted me a mouse like ad thing, and I was like, okay. Yeah, so that's definitely something. Did anyone have any questions in particular about the process or wanted to ask about things you particularly struggled with? Yeah, at the back? You make do, you work with your creative really hard, and you ask them as many questions as you can and get things in email, so that if they say one thing and then further down the line they say no to that, you can just screenshot what they said earlier and just send it back to them passive-aggressively. Anyone else? Yeah?
How many teams do you typically manage at once?
So actually, this was actually pretty realistic. So I handle about anywhere between 4 to 6 projects on average a week. And then sometimes it can go up to like 9, 12. I think the most I've handled in 1 week was 14. And that was like a lot of different editors, and like just everything was really messy. At that point, you just end up having to prioritize one thing over the other and be like, this one has to take a back burner. In terms of managing like different groups, it's usually partnerships or like player managers and stuff, and then they'll go to the producers, and producers will sort of like delegate to all the editors, motion graphics people. So, yeah?
How common are, on here, it's like extensions and postpones and things, how common is that? Or is
Very common.
Do you stick to deadlines, or is it very common to push them back?
It's very common to get extensions and stuff, especially because sometimes things just take longer than you think. Like sometimes people actually get sick and you can't like put it out on time. Sometimes you have an editor who just didn't give it 100% on that one project, and you had to really like pull out needles to sort of get him to do what you needed. It's common. Usually there's some things like with tournament highlights, for example, like player announcements, you need to get that out on time, because you just miss the window, you're screwed. But in terms of like challenge videos, sometimes a lot of partner videos as well, actually, because partners tend to take a really long time to respond. So, for example, you could have something scheduled like, I could have something scheduled to go out on Friday this week, and I'll have a final copy sent to the partners, and they won't get back to me on like Wednesday next week. So that's what ends up happening. Yeah.
Folks, we have time for one last question, if there is one last question. Yep, at the back.
So, what's your favorite game, and then what's your favorite game to work on?
Oh, man. Are we talking esports titles here, or are we talking like game in general? Favorite game of all time is Witcher 3. Yes. I don't think anything is better than that. Maybe Horizon is getting close, and Elden Ring, maybe I haven't played it yet. But Witcher 3 is definitely the best game ever made, in my opinion. And favorite title to work on, at the moment it's Apex, because Apex, it's not as stressful, and we've got a really popular team. And so we can do a lot of things with Apex, and it'll be well received. Okay. All right.
Amazing,
cool.
folks.
Thank you guys so much.
If you can all join me with a warm applause, show some love for Kevin Lee. Lovely, thank you so much. Folks, we have got a week jam-packed with lots of events and lots of activity. Note, tomorrow is the Confetti Fighters Championship gaming event. If you haven't signed up already, get your sign up on, get involved. It starts at 4 o'clock, finishes at 10 o'clock. There is food, there is obviously drinks, alcohol. If you're over 18, bring your ID. Make sure you bring your ID, otherwise you will not be served. And obviously, if you play fighting games, or if you want to be in line to win £100, £75 or £50 as the first, second or third place, get involved. It's going to be amazing. Wednesday, we've got a stacked lineup. Thursday and Friday, it's going to be amazing. Once again, Friday, Gamer. Sign up if you haven't already. It's going to be an amazing week. We're looking forward to everything. Once again, thanks again, Kevin, and we'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Thank you.
Hope you all had fun. Again, should I be going somewhere right now, or okay?